You are now tuned into the sounds of Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
Tuned in to Big Nate Sports Talk, the show that is on all the time, anytime. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Nathan Snell.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony Handy, for that wonderful introduction. As always, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. This is episode 429. In this episode, the Washington Commanders had a victory against the Atlanta Falcons. But before we get into that, there's a few things I want to say up front. I went ahead and recorded episode 428 and 27. And those episodes are already out. You should have already seen the year review. This one with the Ravens are all done. So those will be out tomorrow. I'm going into the new year. So I'm recording 2 episodes today. Tomorrow, the Relentless basketball media with Coach Freeze and one of the players as we get ready for Rutgers on Thursday. And Friday and somewhere in the weekend, Maryland football, Maryland men's basketball. And we'll have our WNBA mock draft 4.0 because free agency is actually about to start next year, in January. So be tuned in for that. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe for our future content. Thank you for the support you gave me on this channel. You can follow me on Twitter at Nathan Snell. And you can also follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We are we're catching up on uploads and all that. And you can also follow my work on mdsportsblog.com. You can also follow me through TeamNBSMedia. And you can follow other great content creators there. So again, this episode, football, NFL season, regular season is coming to a close. We're starting to wind down. And these last couple weeks are critical for some teams. Kind of for the Commanders, most people would have said this season expectations were already exceeded. For me, I know they exceeded my expectations. I still have some questions. I thought there's still some things I would have liked to be addressed, and I think those will get addressed as we progress going into next year and so forth. But for me, Jayden Daniels is obviously Rookie of the Year. That's no disrespect to Bo Nix. I think the Denver Broncos having a great year, but I think what Jayden has done, I think he has proven that he is a franchise star. He's the face of this franchise for years to come. And what I've seen, how he's maintained his composure and has keeping his team the will to keep this team going every week. And you see, even though he had the rib injury, and he kind of had a couple games where he didn't look like he was the first 3 weeks of the season. People kind of started throwing like, is this another Robert Griffin III and all this other stuff? But you see the resiliency of Jayden Daniels, and that's what I appreciate, and that's what I look for in a quarterback. But also to coaching, Dan Quinn needs to be in the consideration for Coach of the Year. He holds his guys accountable, but I don't see him frown or get upset. I see he knows this team is young. He knows this team has what it takes to be successful. And at first I was a little skeptical of Dan Quinn as the head coach for the Commanders, but I'm liking the job that he's doing with this team. So there's a lot of things to be proud of. But this past Sunday, obviously, Sunday Night Football, we were flexing to a Sunday Night Football game with those dirty birds, the Atlanta Falcons. Shout out to Anthony Handy and Kyle Yacy, as they're both Falcon fans. So let's talk football community. And the Washington Commanders clinched a playoff spot in overtime. The final score was 30-24. Look, this is the first time since the pandemic, 2020, where Taylor Heineke and the crew got to the playoffs, and we got to the divisional round against TB12 and those Buccaneers. Listen, when you look at this game, I'm going to start on the Falcons side. Michael Penix Jr. has promise in this league. I think he's a good quarterback. I feel bad that he's been kind of thrown into this situation in the midst of Kirk Cousins not really panning out, I think, the way most would have expected. But a guy coming off an Achilles injury at his age, guys are not going to be 100%. And I think also, too, some of it's not just what's on Kurt, but quarterbacks are always going to get scapegoated. And that's, unfortunately, the reality of today's sports. And from the Falcons side, listen, what cost them this game was they just fell short. They came back, they fought, but they just were short. I'll speak on the third quarter, for example. Atlanta, just Washington, we were at 25 plays. In the third quarter, we held the ball, about almost 13 minutes. Atlanta had just only 3 plays, over 2 minutes, and lost a yard. As you know, that's more at wear and tears on your defense. And you look going into halftime, you're down 10, and you're now down 24-17 going in 17 going in the fourth quarter. And it also, too, again, when you look at Michael Penix Jr., I mean, when you beat the Giants 34-7, okay, that means it's the Giants. But in this game, 9-35, 233, touchdown and a pick. There was a couple times he had some targets. Drake London, especially on that last drive. Kyle Pitts, that's his first touchdown. He would have had it last week as well, but Kyle Pitts tossed it to the defender. But that's neither here nor there. But I think I think it started at halftime. We were up 17-7. You're in control of the game. To me, that 3rd and 22 on that first drive in the second half, I thought that was the game changer right there. It was the linebacker. It was a legal contact penalty. And after that, momentum went in Washington's favor. We could talk about Riley Patterson. He had a chance to win the game on a 56-yard field goal. It was a good kick, just missed it. You could talk about the game tying touchdown, but that right there, that 3rd and 22 penalty, that cost to me was the turning point. And like I said, I think the Falcons will be fine. It's for them, this stings because I know definitely I question the clock management for Atlanta, and that's why I was never really sold on Raheem Morris as the head coach. I saw the same thing when he was head coach in Tampa, because especially to me, when it mattered, you had 33 seconds left on the clock. I watched as they kind of just nobody took initiative to say, "Hey, we need to call a timeout now." They had 12 seconds left on the drive regulation. You had an opportunity to get yourself in field goal range and win the game. and to stay atop of the NFC South. Because again, you're going into Carolina next week, if I remember correctly. Now it's you got to win, and if you win, you go to the playoffs. But did not do that, and that's the second time for the Falcons where Coach Raheem Morris has done that. I got to put the loss on his feet here. He has to be held accountable. He did that in the first half, and again, same thing I mentioned with the Washington Commanders. I'll talk about this a little bit. Missed opportunities. How many times you see missed tackles? How many times you see Atlanta put the game away? There's missed throws, everything. And I think for me, I just think, but here's the thing: clock management is not just on Raheem Morris. I mean, I've seen it with the Ravens. Okay, it's kind of an issue across the board. But to me, clock management and game management is so important. And especially here it is, your rookie quarterback, now in his second start in prime time. To me, there was a lot of miscommunication, missed throws that I've seen, like the 56-yard field goal, because again, you did not put him in the best position. And Riley Patterson, he's an okay kicker, but he's kind of even. There's a reason why he got cut in Detroit, but I just think that to me, they just had no answers for them, and I just think the momentum was all in their way. I still think the Falcons had a chance to win the game, but give Jayden Daniels credit. Daniel Daniels is in that offense, like Cliff Kingsbury's play calling, they are doing a lot. Now, there's some positives. I think Bijan Robinson, for me, I took on my notes here. Bijan Robinson, he gave our defense some work, and Bijan probably could have had maybe 2 or 3 touchdowns in this game, particularly in the first quarter. But I mean, the second half, I kind of question why they didn't utilize him more. But I also too think maybe Atlanta kind of focused on more passing. I don't know if it's something defensively Washington changed that offensively they were like, okay. Mike, like again, he's a rookie, second game of his NFL career, early career. He'll be fine. I understand the 35 passes, 1930 out of 35 passes, not the best. But again, like I think the way even he was at Washington, the way he did when he's in the pocket, those are things where coaching is going to be better because the way he's in the pocket, he avoids pressure. There only are so few quarterbacks that can do that. I thought on that 4th and 11 to Drake London was a good example of a great pass because especially when he threw it to Kyle Pitts to tie the game, I think defensively, if you're going to get against a guy, you have to make him make mistakes. But you're also seeing he can make but you can see he can make plays when it matters. So again, I think going into the offseason, kind of got his baptism of fire, and his progressions. Look at the others, Kyle Pitts and Armoni, all of those things. But that interception that Penix threw was just a bad on a broken play. I still think, to me, he could have pump faked. And again, that's part of that. That's part of development. Is you have to kind of, okay, this is where you could have done right. This is what you could have done wrong. That's where coaching comes in. And the same thing where we said it with Jayden Daniels. I mean, how many times did you see you had an opportunity to make or break a game? I'm watching. He missed a couple passes. I think one was to Kadero Hodge, remember correctly? Yes. And then there was one on Bijan on the sidelines. I mean, as the game progressed, he kind of fell into the rookie habits But again, also too, their deep on the defense for Atlanta. I thought the defense was pretty stellar in the first half, but then the second half, what happened? They took some horrendously bad angles trying to get Jayden Daniels. They had broken coverage, and that kept Washington to move the pylons. And to me, I think you have to take one of the other away. You're going to make him either beat you with his legs or take away something. You can't do two things at once. And I think that's what Atlanta was trying to do in that second half. But outside of that, the clock management, the late interception, the second half, it happens. But I thought Atlanta just got out coached and outperformed. And rightfully so. I put all the blame on this game of Raheem Morris's shoes, but also too, I think this has kind of been self-inflicted. This is kind of something you've seen with the Falcons, even the week before, even the last few weeks. So I still think that they really hadn't faced a team with a guy like Jayden Daniels, but they're not the best red zone defense. And again, that's where guys just got to go in the offseason, just be ready. But, that was pretty much on the Falcons side. But that was something for the Falcons. On the Commander side, my positives, obviously, it starts with the defense in the second half. When it mattered, you could say it was a tale of two halves. Same thing if you look at the last two wins for Washington. Defensively, we've struggled at times, especially in the first half. Now, Atlanta doesn't have an offense that stands out, but how many times, for example, I'll use Quan Martin as an example in this. When I look back at the tape, he took advantage of that interception because it was a bad pass. It was on the 38-yard line. And then the Bijan Robinson carried the ball 13 times for 82 yards, 2 touchdowns. But again, our run defense just did not do a good job closing gaps. But we took him out as the second and going in that half. And I think that's, to me, we made an adjustment. I noticed Deron was in the middle to now playing defensive end. And I'm thinking, wow, that right there was smart. And to me, I noticed our edges were a little bit more effective because especially Bijan is a very shifty guy. And that helps, especially on the perimeter. And you kind of take that away, he kind of just really becomes a north and south guy. So I thought they did better getting to Michael Penix, especially. He really wasn't. We didn't really get to him like we should have. A couple times the pocket. He was able to brush his hair, do his taxes, all that in the first half. But at halftime, Dante Fowler and Dorrance Armstrong got to him. I also got a strip sack in that. So there were 2 sacks, but we did enough to make him uncomfortable in the pocket. I think for Washington, it's all of you. You have to put it together. I think if you're going to beat a team like Philly, Minnesota, or Detroit, whoever you face, you have to complete. You have to defensively bring it for 60 minutes. You can't do it for one half or two halves because that will come back to bite you in the ass come playoff time. That can't happen. Jayden Daniels. I cannot say enough about Jayden. I think Jayden, to me, like I said earlier in the intro, he is rookie of the year. I think he'll get some MVP votes, knowing how some of these guys are on TV. He definitely gets me MVP conversation votes, but more likely, this is our rookie of the year. as a whole, as a cohesive unit, 412 yards. He had three touchdowns, 60% of his passes. He used more of his legs. It was 127 yards. That's the second time in franchise history that's happened. But they kept our running game in check with Brian Robinson and Chris Rodriguez, but they didn't have any answers for Jayden Daniels, and especially on that fourth and one in the third quarter. That's one of the many examples, but overtime did the same thing. He had 69 of our 70 yards, and I'm like, and then that go ahead touchdown is the Zach Ertz to win the game. But I just can't speak enough to just each week you see his progression getting better. And again, the injuries and at times then that little 3-game losing streak, there were some other factors in that, but the resiliency of Jayden Daniels has been key. I'm going to go into the negative just a bit. The officiating. I'm going to say this again. You're probably going to hear me say this, you should hear me say this in the Ravens video as well. But officiating is extremely inconsistent. But also, too, if you keep doing this, like, I'm gonna put it to you like this: there's a former a former coach that said this on a media Zoom call one time. Each officiating crew is different. If crew A says it's a foul, but crew B, crew C, or crew D says something otherwise, but you keep doing the same thing, I can't keep blaming the officials. We do not do a good job of saying, okay, we got to make an adjustment. And some of that, I don't think it's film. I think it's just at this point in the season, this is just what we are. And it's just going to happen. And also, too, I get it. Each officiating crew is different, but we are digging ourselves in holes at times that I think we put ourselves in the first place. Last week, 5 turnovers against Philadelphia. And then I'm watching Sunday night. I went back and looked at the tape yesterday. 13 penalties. That can't happen. 6 of those were offensive, was holding on the offensive side of the ball. That's not winning you football games.
Mm-hmm. I can't defend that. What do you want me to say to that?
And then also, too, like, that either put us in situations where you were in scoring position or you couldn't score the ball. Let me give you an example. It was 1st and 10. It was on their 12-yard line and turned into a 2nd and 20 because of the holding call. Interception. Okay, I'll give you another example. There was another one. It was needed to convert on a 3rd and 30. Instead, got called for holding, took a touchdown off the board in the 4th quarter. Same thing. Defensively, we were helping Atlanta. We got called for offsides on a field goal attempt on their second drive. And again, they scored 5 plays later on that drive. Pass interference in the 4th quarter. And again, that would have been something. But luckily, Riley Peterson had missed that 56-yard field goal. And also, too, again, I mean, that can't happen. So, but again, if you keep doing the same thing, I can't blame officials on that. That's you. That's on the players, and that's on coaching. So I would really, really hope there's some adjustments to that. But outside of that, Terry McLaurin, I was surprised. He really wasn't used much in the game. He finished with 1 reception, 5 yards, and 7 targets. I remember that correctly on my notes. But also, too, AJ Terrell was his number 1 corner for Atlanta, so he did a good job keeping him in check. He only got targeted twice in the first half, but outside of that, you're going to have to get your number 1 receiver of the ball. you're going to have to do something. That was something I noticed. Chris Rodriguez, I noticed I would like for him to get more opportunities. I know Austin Eckler can return from the IR next week, but me personally, I kind of want him now before the playoffs, because I don't want that to kind of take away the momentum. And to me, I think, even though he's not a starter, Chris Rodriguez does a lot of things for you that you can appreciate in an offense. I think he's definitely earned some more shake in this offense, and especially when you're asking, you need a spark, whether it's like I'll give an example, a 3rd and 5 or a 2nd and 3, something. He's giving you those yards. So, but most definitely. Outside of that, if you take away the penalties, this was overall a good game. I still don't think it should win overtime, if I'm being honest. Because again, if I look at, I'm just going to hark back on the penalties compared to Philadelphia. My notes here, 93 penalty yards. And again, also too, in fairness, I'm not blaming the officials in this game. Most of the defensive line was pretty much responsible for the penalties. So there was Sam Cosmi was flagged 3 times, twice for holding. That can't happen against a team like Philly, Minnesota, Detroit in the playoffs. So yeah, and again, going just a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball, I really, really think the Brandon St. Juste era is finished, and it just not. I just think that this is just not the system for him defensively, because if you notice, we did the same thing with Emmanuel Forbes Jr. as he's now with the Chargers. And you can pretty much do that now with Marshall Lattimore here as the Commanders. Juice is done. That penalty, same like in week 16, he just didn't play as much. And you notice they're going with Michael Davis. I still think the potential's there with Juice, but it's not with us, respectfully. Maybe a team like the Ravens maybe could do something with him, because especially Brandon Stevens is going to be a free agent. Maybe we can do something with him, but he definitely needs an Aaron Glenn would do wonders to help him. To me, that's just my opinion. We did lose Mr. Tyler. I looked at my injuries, on my notes. Tyler went down in the second quarter with an ankle injury, but he was back in the game. He was on the sidelines, but I'm actually curious to see what that is, because he's actually been he's been kind of the glue for our offensive line. So yeah, that was pretty much all my notes from the game. But obviously, those are my positives and negatives of the game for both sides of the ball. I think that the Commanders, I'm extremely proud of them. From where we were last year, we were 4-13, and it was embarrassing. It was disgusting. We are doing something that a lot of teams can't say they can do when you're coming off a year where you not only doubled your wins, but you're not going to the playoffs. We can definitely lock up the 6th seed when we face that team in Dallas. We face the Dallas Cowboys. But again, we haven't seen this since 2020. We were 7-9. Even though that year really wasn't talent-wise the best playoff run, but playoffs is still the playoffs. And again, I think the Commanders can get as far as the divisional round, but I think they can be a Cinderella story, in my personal opinion. I think that Philadelphia, whoever they match up with, Philadelphia, Minnesota, Detroit, whoever they see, could actually give Washington a run for their money. So I'm really proud of the Commanders, and left hand up. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick commercial break and have one final thought. We'll be right back.
Thoughts are running through my mind, so I took some time to find a minute or two to organize.
The one final thought of this episode, I would like to send a congratulations to Mr. Jeremy Reeves as he proposed to his girlfriend after the game. Congratulations, best wishes to both of you as you start a new chapter of your lives respectfully. The one thing I did kind of find disturbing was, first and foremost, outside of maybe the DMV Commanders fans, a lot of people don't know who Jeremy Reeves was or who he is. But I find it really kind of distasteful. Not actually kind of, it is distasteful of the kind of criticism of who he's with. First and foremost, that man can date, marry who he wants to. I don't care if you're purple, pink, black, or white. Nobody but yourself. No one should dictate who you should date. If these two make each other happy, support it and move forward. Because this is their lives. This is a new chapter for both of them. And, as long as they support each other, love each other, take care of each other, that's all that matters. I don't like when we take it into our own hands to dictate stuff like that. I just thought that was very disturbing. It's just disgusting. What I saw on Twitter. And then on top of that too, there was somebody, obviously who was a sex worker, made a false accusation that he flew her out and for other services and other stuff like that. And then actually found out it was a lie. I don't know what you gained from that neither, other than obviously you just want attention. But respectfully be saying this, some of y'all in 2025 need to go touch some grass, but more importantly, some of y'all need to go see that lady or that man. I don't care if it's via Zoom. I don't care if it's in person, sitting in their office in a chair, but some of y'all need to go see that lady and that man. But anywho, congratulations to Jeremy Reeves. Best to you and now your fiance as you both begin a new chapter in your lives respectfully. Please like, comment, and subscribe for our future content. And I will catch you on the flip side. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay up.
Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
And I want to thank you. All I want to do is say thank you.
Got a problem with the what?